about the scores we ain't set. We said winner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, F. Fam over gram, that's a message. We be stacking bread up like it's cheddar. Talking about the scores we ain't set. We said winner 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, F. Dreams over schemes, that's a.
You know, I know you were saying last time that we need some new pictures and for the intro. When I see you in a week, we should grab some pictures of the two of us. And
Yes.
and so the good lead in, it's Monday the 3rd, a week from today. Is it a week or is it Tuesday? Which day are you on stage?
It's Tuesday, but yeah, Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday's the commercial, I think, side.
So Tuesday the 11th in Dallas, Housing Wire AI event summit. Sorry, Clayton, I got to get it right. Housing Wire AI Summit. Abdel's going to be one of several killer speakers. And I want to talk about that today. Instead of picking a topic like we normally do where we counterpoint. I just want to hear a little bit about where your head is for this event, what you're going to be focusing on from stage. Maybe some things people can start to think about. Number one, make sure you're in the room, but number two, you know, what are some of these key takeaways? So where's your head right now? What are we going to be knocking out?
Yeah, I'm honestly super stoked because, you know, I have been traveling, and you remember when I had made a promise to you, I think it was over a year and a half ago, where I had said, man, I need to be out there, out and about.
Yep.
Right. Remember, we talked about that at our last leadership conference,
Yep.
almost 2 years ago. And we did that, and I love it, and I appreciate the opportunity for Zeb and Clayton to be like, yo, dude, you're the dude who's actually doing this stuff, right? And I think that's going to basically be my forefront position there is, hey, you're leading it. And I think that the fancy title that we've got is like AI from the ground up. And I'll be on with Drew, who's a rock star, right? With Guild. And I love it because it is also even in that side, right, with us both sharing the stage, it's going to kind of be that dynamic of from the producing originator's perspective down to you know, I think Drew's VP of marketing, right, whatever beautiful title he's got, and then obviously the execs in the room, right. We're gonna go over a bunch of stuff, right? What was that like oh shit moment, that aha moment where I'm like, okay, this is something that I need to adapt. And if you asked me that question a year and a half ago, it's different than if you asked me it 6 months ago, a month ago, to literally now. I actually pulled the trigger, and I finally got the plaid.
I'm getting blown. I don't have one yet, but clearly I've been researching because I'm getting blown up with advertising.
So I always used to see it, and I'm like, whatever. And then I was presenting at a real estate office because you can do a lot of training. And my buddy, who's the team lead there, they've got probably like 56 agents now. He just switched to EXP. He's like, do you have it? And I'm like, nah, you know, I could do on the voice memo, and then I just do the connection and this and that. So he started busting my balls. And then I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to order it. And talk about just technology, right? That was probably around 11 a.m. Saturday. It was at my doorstep at like 4 from Amazon. So freaking Amazon. Yeah, dude. So I did. I mean, just getting that in and of itself, like I already went, boom, connected it with Zapier. So now my team's going to automatically get notified. I immediately connected it with the MCP connection with Chat and Claude. And the recordings within Plaid stays within their own like Plaid infrastructure, right? It's not out there. So for security purposes and governance and all that, it's actually been so dope. So I've even been playing around with it with just like personal calls, just to see like how cool it is. And then you can actually make like different, call it like summary style notes. So like, hey, this is going to be a referral partner call. So this is how I want the summary to come out. This is going to be a client consultation. This is how I want summary to come out. So of course, you know me, that's where I think that's the biggest part about where I'm excited for with the AI. So most of us, as you've gotten to know me over the last several years, is they think it's like guerrilla sales versus for me, it's infrastructure first, right? You come up with the blueprint first, then the infrastructure. Then as leaders, if we build that infrastructure, we can hand it to our originators, it becomes easier to adapt, right? Yeah. Because we've kind of put guardrails in place where your team can't really screw it up. And Eric, I think that's going to be the key heading into next week is that part where as leaders, we want to give the originators everything, right? My institution, right? We do that because we get so much stuff, right? So much tools, which is a pro and a con, right? The pro is you're introduced to everything. The con is you might be, as most of us are, like a kid in a candy store where you're like, I want to eat that. So you grab this candy, you grab that candy, you grab that candy. And that's one of the questions too, is how do we balance that, right?
Right.
As leaders towards our originators and towards our referral partners and take it from there. So that's kind of a little bit of an incumbents. Got a couple questions teed up that we're going to try to somewhat keep it structured and take it from there.
No, I dig it. You know, you and I were texting earlier this morning, and one of the things was this idea of AI no longer being optional, right? And you know, you've been instrumental kind of in test casing some of the things that Model Match has done, which is like, you know, releasing the MCP, opening up the API. And for those of you that like, these letters matter, they don't matter that much. Let me just take it from a guy that is not the tech guru. But, you know, MCP is essentially the gatekeeper that allows the door to get swung open to allow Model Match's information to flow through whatever workspace you want to be in. Abdel, we say AI, right? Like we say Claude and GPT or Perplex, whatever you're using. But the reality is it's almost more than that and simpler than that, which is, you know, we had to have a difficult conversation about a year ago about this exactly, which is as a tech company, you're building this beautiful thing and you want people to log in and see this UI that you've created, and you've created it with feedback from users. The user base actually has built the UI and the updates to it and the new deployments and releases. But with where we are today, like creating these walls that force the user to do it one way is just not the way things are working. And by the way, let me tell you, man, that's a tough one for me, because I think one of the challenges with this industry, and maybe it's not just this industry, but it's the industry we're in. So it's the one that you and I are in 12 hours a day, if not more. And that is the negative of optionality. Like the more all these options will paralyze you, and then you end up doing nothing, or just as bad, maybe worse than doing nothing. Although I don't know if there is such a thing. It's that you bolt on to the shiny object right now, you never fully adopt it, and then you move on to the next shiny object 60 days later. And so you're doing all this work that actually generates zero outcome. The idea of us dropping that wall was not earth-shattering, but it's very unique in the industry, quite frankly. And that is, if you've built a workspace that you're very comfortable in, well, why should I have walls that keep you from accessing everything that we can provide inside of your workspace? What I'm excited about you talking about, though, in Dallas next week is what you said a minute ago, because it's something I've challenged you on a lot. And that is, everything you talk about, there's only about 5% of it then that the masses of us can actually implement.
Yeah.
Now we're not all you. So how do we take all of this optionality, all of this innovation, and package it in a very clean way where I can now go action all of the options, right? I can select an option, I can commit to it, I can adopt it, and then I can action it. So there, and let me throw out one thing and then I'll shut up. The dropping this wall, opening up the MCP, being more open relative to the API connections, I'm actually doing the opposite of what concerns me. I'm creating more options. What my focus is, when I say Model Match, is that now we also have to continue to be really good consultants in the optionality, which is something I think we've always been really good at. We built tech second. We were the consultants first. We were business development first. We were tech data scientists second. We've become really, really good at it. But it's kind of like you and I are on a football team. I'm the coach. You're one of the players. Well, what do we do all week? I'm creating options during the week because I don't know what the situation is going to be with 2 minutes left on the clock in the fourth quarter. I've got options. However, I'm calling the play. I'm going to decrease the options in the moment where we need to go accomplish something. And I feel like maybe we're getting closer to people realizing you can have options with also this coaching mentality of, okay, here's what you do, go do it. If it doesn't work, we'll tighten it up and we'll be better next time. But maybe talk a little bit to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is options is not the worst thing in the world. What you're looking to do first is the number one thing, right? So and you've heard me break this down, it's a sales, service, support, right? Normally, most of us are going to think sales first because, hey, that's what brings in the money. So, okay, so if it's sales, first of all, let's stick to mortgage companies. Are you consumer direct, or are you going to be referral based, or are you going to have a combo of the both, right? If you're going to be, some of the large companies, right, that both are out there now and they've picked up, large servicing companies, right? We know where their footprint is going to be. So they're going to be leveraging data more from, let's say, a additional client retention perspective, because they're looking to bring in more refinances, and their originators are going to be more paid on a per file basis, or whatever the case may be. Great business model. I think most of us probably don't tailor to that business model and try to do a little bit of both, right? But from the sales perspective, when I meet even with my own originators, right, I just had 3 originators leave, and just as quickly as they left, I replaced them.
I saw that, man. Congrats.
With 3 new originators.
Yeah.
It sucks, but you know what it is? It's one of those things that you and I literally last session was speaking specifically about the timeframes when people leave, and I think it was May, July, and December that was the highest, coincidentally. But to the point where we talked about
wait, hold that thought, because great reminder. July was in there, which everybody will tell you that doesn't happen. Okay,
it really was. You're even seeing the messages too now, and it all depends, right? We were just talking about the Plaid, and then of course it's all over my newsfeed. Just as quickly as when you start talking about recruiting or business development, and now everything on my feed is about business development. I think we're seeing a little bit of a shift in that wave, and it's probably because volume's a little down too, so you look to bring on more people.
Yep.
But to the point, I think it's going to come down to, again, what are you looking to accomplish for your originators, right? Is it going to be giving them more opportunities for marketing? I don't think we're seeing too much anymore of a big push like we did probably 2-3 years ago about marketing and make these really cool stuff and have these really cool innovations. And then you had great companies like Experience.com and Bird Eye and this and that. At least that's my perspective. I'm not really seeing too much of that. I think what I'm seeing more now is more pushes into data adoption, right? So doing the MCP for Model Match has been great because I don't have to log in. I don't have to wait for the code to get emailed to me. If I have my team that's simultaneously doing it, I know that where to do it. And then it was I call it the white interface and the black interface. I think you guys call it legacy and then the new model. I freaking love the new model because it's easier to access. There's 4 prompts that tells me, and I think it also gives us the opportunity where it will simultaneously also tell me hey, this is where you should maybe be concising your business, right? Where it's real estate agent, loan officers, offices. I forget what the 4th box is, but it's essentially there. And it is a simple, and I can't even say it because in today's day and age, our kids are probably sharper than most of us, but it's as simple as my 14-year-old daughter now is heavily invested. One of her biggest projects this summer has been Model Match, and learning it and adapting it. And then you guys just released a CRM feature. So now she loves it because she was the one that was wait, I thought you hate spreadsheets, because she knows I freaking despise spreadsheets, right? Exporting and stuff, because then there could be so many different versions. And then if one admin is working on it and BizDev is working on it and growth strategy is working on it, there's going to be three potential issues. So now with the CRM, so now she's able to utilize the CRM strategically. No, there's an SOP in place for her also, which I think is where many of us fail. Is, hey, all right, so we've got this MCP connection, or you've connected, Claude with Buffer, so now it's going to do your social media posts and this and that. But there is no step-by-step instruction that we can hand to an originator and be hey, here's something to track. Here's a worksheet on the success. And here's also an SOP where from you log in to your final exported option, or to your final basically filters on why you could be successful, right? And to your point, is everybody going to adopt it? Probably not. But at least if I can build a system where it's there. So if you're an originator who might be savvy to wanting to do that and maybe try to innovate it within your way, phenomenal, right? If you're someone who at least you have somewhat of a footprint to be able to be okay, I know what the team can help me do. So I can delegate that to a potential teammate to pull me a list of, say, hypothetically, real estate agents based on filter, based on closing, based on buyers driven, based on sellers driven, who have a social media. That's been a
Yeah.
big part for me. So if they have a social, I want you on my list. If you don't have a social, based on the numbers, frankly, like if it diminishes the list significantly, I'm like, okay, maybe not. But again, guys, now what do you do? So you've got that list, you've got that data. Now what do you do? Well, what I have done is we have built out a Claude project, and it knows what is that picture perfect avatar of what I am looking for. Do they brand heavily? Are they exposed online? Do they post for blogs? Do they not post for blogs? Are they accessible? Is their information different in multiple places because they moved from ABC Realty to XYZ Realty? And it will spit out the list. And I think I've shared it with you and Thomas. And he was like, this is freaking awesome. Because it would actually, from a list of, say, 200 real estate agents, tell me who is good, who is questionable, and who is bad. So it has taken a list of 10,000 real estate agents or 10,000 loan officers, because I'm doing it for the same for originators. And then it's filtering it from there. If you're an originator who's very refi driven, again, I'm not the potential branch for you, because that's just not the business model that we accommodate. So it cuts it down from there. And then I don't think there's something that you could do where you're very heavy social media or your online presence is there, because it can work twofold. If it's not there, hey buddy, why is it not there? And how can my team simultaneously assist you in getting you there and setting up automations? And I'm not talking about like boilerplated, I'm talking about like cool stuff that the team has taken the time to build out in Canva. We could put your own personal brand spin. So one of the dudes that we hired is very heavy VA. So a lot of the stuff the team has been building out for him over the last several weeks has been VA driven, right? So, and it's not, again, boilerplated stuff. It's hyper local in his specific niche, in his specific market, in specific, let's say, restaurants or locations. And then we're able to take that, automate it, build it out in Buffer. Buffer is now sharing it within their social media, automatically pulling out the data, right? See, that's where I have seen the success.
Yeah. And like, I go back to what you and I talk about a lot, which is just listening you go through that. I'm trying to picture a room, and I know that 90% of the room, now I know you're not going to do this at Housing Wire, but if you did what you just did with me, which is sort of this free flowing guerrilla state of consciousness, you're going to you lose people in the first 5 seconds sometimes. Here's what I'm noticing though, and I wonder if maybe as you speak and I speak at events, I wonder if this is where where it clicks for maybe the scale and not just the top 5%. I'm noticing a lot, and actually I had 2 direct messages on LinkedIn on Friday, just on Friday, not last week, Friday, where I noticed people that I know are good originators or producing managers in this business put up a post about something that they created using AI. And they're not hiding behind it, by the way. And by the way, everybody get over it. Like, seriously, yeah, we're building stuff with AI. It's not cheating. I mean, honestly. Now what I would say is, if your graphic looks the same as everybody else's freaking graphic, well, then get better at AI. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be using it. But there was somebody in particular that spun up like a consumer workbook that was sort of a list of expectations. Hey, here's what you can expect from me. Here's how the process is going to work. Introduction to people on her team that she created through an agent. And then it's dynamic. So as things happen along the way, this agent will create something else and then push that out to the consumer and the referral partner. So I messaged this person and just said, hey, this is fantastic. It's not rocket science. You're already doing it, and you just fed the agent what it is you want, and it spins something up. Her graphic was really nice. It actually didn't look like everything else I see that's AI generated. But then I messaged her and said, have you considered plugging X into this to then take it to the next step? And she immediately messaged me back. By the way, we don't know each other that well. I think she saw me speak once. I met her once. She messaged me right back, and all she said was, now that I've done this, I would be really curious to hear how this bolt-on could create an additional efficiency. So maybe, Abdel, one of the things you might notice and we might notice is maybe that's the jumping off point, is everybody starting to use AI for their own brand, their own marketing, but there's no action behind it. Well, if you've done that, good work. Now let's bolt on the next thing. Then we can bolt on the next thing. Because if that doesn't happen, well, then you just end up people like you end up becoming the ones that build it. And then everybody wants that set it, forget it, which by the way, has never worked throughout the history of this industry. Is every time somebody rolls out a set it and forget it, guess what? Everybody else has the damn set it and forget it. And so you still have to differentiate yourself. But I sort of wonder if maybe the starting point is rebranding yourself to those that are in your inner circle, your referral partners and your customers, and then saying, okay, now that I've done that, what's the next step? And just doing it in state. Because that's bite-sized. People are already doing that.
And I think the hardest part is, all right, you've taken the first step, like we said, right? Everybody at one point eventually was like, it's actually still mind-boggling to me how some people still don't pay for an LLM, right? Whether it's $20 for chat or $200 for Claude.
Well, and by the way, talk about that for just a second, because this came up on a webinar I did last week, which was people were asking about, agents. And by the way, I'm not an expert. I'm good enough to be more than dangerous, right? But my question back to them was, because somebody was like, well, I'm just using the free version. I said, well, have you considered this person had said they had considered hiring an assistant. I said, well, what are you going to pay the assistant? Of course, they told me. I said, then what are you going to have to do to get the assistant up and running to actually be able to create an efficiency and create value for you? They had walked me through it. I said, you do realize for $20 a month, not everything, but most of what you just said, once you take the time to train the agent, you're at least for that, you're done now.
Yeah, the way I related to having a paid version of anything, right, is exactly that, right? Where you hire an employee. Imagine you've taken the time to hire the employee. You've built out, hopefully you've done it, but you've built out the SOPs. You've told them, here's your employee workbook. This is what I want you to do, all that stuff. And then they come into the office the next day and you're back to scratch, right? And I'll be completely honest, I've never personally used the free version from the get. I've paid, but I'm going to imagine that if I go back a month later, and I don't know how short of a time frame it holds the data, but you come back and you ask it to run the exact same, say, really cool workbook that you've put together or really cool infrastructure, and it doesn't do it. And you're like, dude, what the fuck? I just told you to do this. And it's like, well, I don't store memory, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's add-ons to that, right?
Sure.
And so then you paid for the version. And then the next one, this is like, at least in my world, basics, right? And then the next thing is you create, the way I say it is you create departments within your business, right? So the LLM is your business, and then you create departments within it, right? So you have your marketing, your digital marketing, your guidelines, your pre-approval, your this, your that. So when you have a specific task, you go to that department, you go to the last, say, project that you gave it, right, chat, and you tell it to update it, right? Just as quickly it has the opportunity to be able to do so, right? So same exact way. So I think it starts, but where I would say, Eric, where people are failing, or I mean, not say failing, not having the success is you don't know what you want, right? Like you're kind of looking at it from just like, hey man, I really want to make a cool flyer, to your point. All right, well, what do you want to say? Who's your target audience? And I always bring it back to Simon Sinek's start with why, right? Why are you giving me this specific task? How do you want me to give it back to you? And what is the audience that I'm speaking to, right? So your prompt should be like a freaking paragraph. Your prompt should be like, when I prompt, I hit the dictate option. I'm like, all right, I want you to do this. This is what I want you to do. This is the reason why I want you to do it. How I want it spit out is in a flyer. I want it to be 2 columns. I want my CTA to be on the bottom, so you make sure you have the opportunity for it to do it. This is going to be geared specifically towards referral partners. Don't make it to just originators as the audience. Make sure you come up as worthy, leader. But when you're putting the tone, make sure it comes from an empathetic perspective as well, depending on whatever the specific topic is. And I want you to make sure that when it comes out with the purpose that that person actually sees me as an authoritative figure in the industry. That's like a freaking prompt, right? So then it spits it out. And then if it comes out and it's crap, it's like, hey, don't ever send this to me like this because you've got my face distorted or you've got this,
right.
For the QR code, right? You never ask chat to, I think chat's better than Claude, but you never ask it to put a QR code because it never does.
It doesn't work. You got to go to Flow Code or something. Just grab it yourself.
You got to fix it. There's so many ways to do it. But again, if you're watching this, leader or originator or real estate agent or whoever it is what are you giving it for? What do you want it to do? And I always break it down simply. And I think Ben Anderson was the one who said this when I did the coaching a while ago and stuck with me, right? You break the business down into sales, service, and support. And then I think from there, you can have the tentacles of where it breaks out into, right? Where that aha moment for me was Fireflies does the recording, you send it. That was like the freaking coolest thing, right?
Yeah.
And then it broke down into, okay, well, let me take this and simplify it by taking the transcript, plugging it into chat. And went there. And then now I have our workflow with Gemini LM, which is no longer even called Notebook, right? They changed it to Gemini LM because that's where they're pushing. Now, when you go on Google and search, you don't get Google searches anymore. You get Gemini that comes up first. And then Google pay-per-click and LSA comes up, right? So you think about that, and then there's blogging. I mean, go on.
No, dude, and this is the challenge, right? Is like this conversation is damn near endless. A couple things, just as we close this out, and then I can't wait to see you in a week. The value of your prompts are maybe the most important thing in all of this. And once we run, when we spun up the MCP and we started watching how users were connecting to the model match connector in Claude or GPT, and then the challenges that some were happening because of the prompt, not because of the AI, not because of the connector, but because of the prompting itself. So 2 tips you just gave that I think are worth mentioning. Number one, I love dictation because I have found that GPT and Claude, and maybe I've gotten lucky, is that even if I'm stream of consciousness, it's pretty good at figuring out my stream of consciousness and then knocking it out. I did a prompt I watched someone do a prompt a week ago, a top LO up in the Northeast that was geeking out over it and just said, I want to grow my business by 25% in the next 12 months. Give me a plan. Okay. Well, it did. It went and called on the model match connector. It looked at all of her business. It looked at her geography, the neighborhoods that she's worked in. It looked at all the agents that she's been connected to. It looked at her product. It looked at her average loan amount. Like, it really captured everything. And then it started to build a list. But one of the things that it threw in there was a bunch of luxury agents, and she doesn't really do luxury business. So she went back to it and said, these agents are no good for me. This is the reason why. And of course, it came back and said, you know what? You're right. My bad. Let me rebuild this. It rebuilt it. It was beautiful. Then she said, I need to have a conversation with my manager about this. Can you build a dynamic graphic that will help me walk the manager through this with a graphic? Well, then by the time she was done, it was fantastic. But here was another piece of advice I gave her that I would highly encourage everybody to consider. Once you have a project completed and you're really happy with it, go back to your AI agent and say, give me the prompt that would have allowed you to do this in one run, and then save those prompts. And you'll find that you basically fill in the blanks then as you start going forward. So those are a couple of good ones. Okay. I'm coming to your session. Give me one thing that you're like, when you leave this session, you'll be able to walk away with what? And tell me in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah. First thing you're going to come in is, holy crap, I'm not maximizing AI to the max I should be. The next thing is I'm going to give like action steps, 30, 60, 90 days on how you're going to do it. And third, for the leaders and the executives, I think it's going to give us really an eagle's eye view from that ground up of, okay, this is where the originator is thinking. It's not AI governance. It's not restrictions on that. Right. Those are important, right? But how can I make the originator AI? I hate the saying of AI, the people who don't use it is going to replace it, all that bullshit. No, the real saying is AI is there for speed and clarity. I need to make sure the originators know that, and they're keeping their authenticity and their brand, and then putting that first. And to the consumer and to the referral partner, if I can make sure that as a company, we're building out the AI for the speed and the clarity for the originator knows that there's still purpose in their business and why they will always be everlasting, is if they're there pushing their brand and being authentic. And if for a company that can push that AI to make them more clearer and make them more efficient in what they do, that's the purpose of what I think you'll have more success getting to. So
I love it. If I don't know if they're still selling tickets or if they've sold out. I'm guessing they've probably sold out at this point, but you could go check it out. Housing Wire AI Summit, Dallas, Texas. I'll be flying in Monday. So is Abdel. Abdel's on stage on Tuesday. I think I fly out Tuesday night, and I think you probably do as well. But if you're going to be there, find Abdel, ask him questions, find me. I'm happy to talk you through what I'm seeing from various use cases. And until then, hey, by the way, find us and we can settle some scores in Dallas. Let's do that.
Let's go.
All right, brother.
Thanks, dude.